Pretty cool video, huh? Well, good afternoon, everybody. I want to start off by welcoming you to our 2015 conference. And oh my gosh, it's bigger and better than ever. And so before we get too much farther into this, I want to make sure that we thank and appreciate those that have made this possible. So Liz Evshesky serving as our chair, and would the members of your conference committee please stand? They're probably distributed around here. Please stand up, all of you. I know you're out there. Thank you very much. These guys have been literally working for a year to prepare us for this next 2.5 days, because we're looking to have this opportunity for a learning opportunity. I'm so excited. This time of year, we're coming off another successful construction season, and we're about to get into our winter season here. Our TOC meteorologists are telling us that it's going to be wetter and maybe a little colder than it was last year, or in their parlance, that's a near normal or a little above normal. And I'm not so sure that really revs us up and gets us excited about the winter. Jason Davis, who's known for his ability to add excitement with words, told me that this would be the Godzilla of all El Niños. So Godzilla, I can't imagine what that might look like. But I know one thing's for sure, the UDOT employees are ready. So we're here together, and it's all about learning. It's all about you finding a chance to learn something new, take it back to your job and implement it. It's about you sharing what you know with somebody else. Meeting new people, meeting friends. I'm going to start with some definitions. You know, when we're in school, we always write on the green pad of paper the givens. This is a given here today in my talk. I'm going to be using the term UDOT a lot. And when I talk about UDOT, I want everyone to understand what it means. It's a very comprehensive term here this afternoon. It means our partners at the Federal Highway Administration. It means our partners at the Department of Public Safety. Thank you for the honor guard. It means our contractors, our consultants, our suppliers. It means our partners at the Utah Transit Authority. It means all of our local governments. It means our metropolitan planning organizations. It means everyone, all of us. Together, we're the team that provides the transportation solutions for the great state of Utah. And so, together, we are UDOT. Today, you're all part of UDOT. Now, this year, we're very proud to welcome some new participants to our conference. We have 20 STEM students here that are participating with us from American Fork High School and Utah Valley University. And as they know, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And they're here to learn from us. What are we all about? And they're also here to help us with our technology. You know how the saying goes, if you can't figure out how to make your computer work, look for a young person. They can help get that thing going. And so you also know education is one of our emphasis areas. If we're going to be a sustainable organization, we need to ensure that the workforce coming behind us is better and more prepared than we ever were. And so engage with these fine young folks, answer their questions, see what you can do to thank them for the service that they're providing here today. And so let's just start up. With these fine students, please stand up and we can recognize you. So earlier when I said we are UDOT, what you're looking at here is they could or hopefully will be UDOT in the future if we don't scare them off here during this conference. If you recall, last year during this conference, I had a chance to share with you our vision, our mission, and our strategic goals. And I tried to present a compelling reason as to why they were the right ones. Well, this year, I am more than ever convinced that our vision is correct, our mission is the right one, and our strategic goals are taking us down the right path for our future. Now, in order to do that, well, I'd like to flash back for a moment to do this. This is a little scary. When I was the age of these students, I don't know what I was thinking. The sad thing is, this is the best picture my mother can find. Well, back in those days, I did have some hair. I know some of you don't believe it. But we did not have an organization such as STEM. And in fact, I don't even know if we would have recognized if it was around at that time. This was a different time. This was the post-Beatles era, pre-disco. The war in Vietnam had just ended, and President Nixon had resigned in disgrace. Have you guys seen the movie The Walk? It was about a high-wire artist that walked a tightrope between the Twin Towers in New York City. It was a real-life event. It took place in 1974. I was a high school sophomore, and Shane Marshall he was 2 years old. Now, when I was in high school, he just said paybacks. He gets the mic tomorrow. When I was in high school, the book by the name of The Prophet was really experiencing a renaissance. And it was really popular with the intellectual elite. Now, I was neither an intellectual nor elite. So that's my excuse. I didn't read the book. But the book was written in 1923 by Khalil Gibran, and it experienced an amazing renaissance during the 60s and the 70s. In fact, my crack research team, Wikipedia, that's all you need anymore, right? Tells me that because of the popularity of the book, The Prophet, Khalil Gibran became the third best-selling poet of all times, behind William Shakespeare and Lao Tse. See? Poetry. You didn't think you were going to learn about poetry today. Now, I tell all you this for a reason, because I want to start with a line from The Prophet. And it goes like this: "Let today embrace the past with remembrance and the future with longing." And that's exactly what I want to do here for the next few minutes. I want to embrace the past with appreciation for the extraordinary efforts you're all making to keep Utah moving, and doing so in ways that are consistent with our mission, vision, and strategic goals. And then I want to take a few minutes to look and embrace our collective future, and why I believe it's worth longing for and working for. Now, embracing the past can at times be a little embarrassing. I get a chance to travel around the country a lot, and I visit with a lot of transportation agencies. And I'm telling you, Utah is used so many times as about the way things should be done. It just goes on and on. There's one DOT that refers to us as the DOT that should not be named. These guys get it. There's another DOT director from a neighboring state that says he feels at times like Jan Brady. You guys remember the Brady Bunch? Jan was the middle sister. What did she always hear? Marcia, Marcia, Marcia. And what does he hear all the time? Utah, Utah, Utah. But, like the great pitcher Dizzy Dean said, it ain't bragging if you did it. And you guys, UDOT, you did it. You guys have been amazing. Let me start with an example here. When the tiny, isolated town of Hilldale was devastated by those raging floods just a month ago, our UDOT crews responded quickly and strategically by the call of Governor Herbert for emergency action. 29 workers out of our Purgatory, Kanab, Long Valley, Beryl Junction, Cedar City, and Cedar Mountain maintenance stations responded with 14 pieces of heavy equipment. They were supported by another 11 employees out of our district region offices, as well as in our Salt Lake City Emergency Operations Center. These folks worked long hours through the weekend. They were able to open the roads, clear the debris, reestablish the shoulders. They did an amazing job, and they made a big difference. Of course, nothing we could do as a DOT could in any way compensate for Hilldale and their families for the unbelievable loss of life. But the residents were so pleased and appreciative of the work that UDOT did, they wanted to send a big thanks to us. And this thanks, this extension of a thank you from Hilldale is very significant when you consider the trust, the mistrust that exists between the outside world and this very protected community. So when you think about these crews, they exemplify what we in UDOT call our UDOT values. Things such as they're innovative, they're passionate, they're dedicated, responsive to the public, and of course, they're reliable. Those UDOT values that we hold so dear. Now, I understand, I'm going to guess you're probably near the back because that filled up so quickly, that some of our folks who responded, whether it be at the region and district offices, out on the field, or here in Salt Lake City, are here with us today. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like to ask you to stand. Don't be embarrassed. You'll be able to finish your dessert, I promise. Thank you. We have a couple here. There's more, I know. Come on. There's Dana. Excuse me. Getting a blocked FaceTime call. You guys might want to see this. Let me see if we can do this. No, didn't work. Okay.
Hello, Carlos. I hope I'm not interrupting anything.
Hello, Governor. We're just giving my annual talk at the UDOT conference.
And I know you were just about to thank your UDOT employees who responded to my call to action to help the people of Hilldale during the recent floods.
Wow, that's amazing, Governor. How did you know?
Hey, I'm the governor, man. I know things. But I just wanted to add my thanks to yours, Carlos. On behalf of the people of the state of Utah, I want to thank all those of you who did such an impressive and effective job in Hilldale. Your assistance was desperately needed and greatly appreciated. Will all of you at the conference please join me in a round of applause for these great UDOT employees.
Thank you, Governor, for taking the time to recognize our great people.
Thank you, Carlos. Have a great conference, everyone. See you later.
He's really a good sport. Well, let's see. Let's get back to it. Of course, any discussion about our past has to include a discussion about our number one priority, our first strategic goal. All together? Safety. That was pretty good, guys. 0 crashes, 0 injuries, 0 fatalities. And just as a reminder, last year during this conference, we launched a behavioral-based safety program. Because more than anything else in my life, I want to make sure that each and every one of you returns home to your families safe and sound every single day. And you've all gone through the training, and I'm here to say it's making a difference. We have seen a significant drop in lost time accidents over this last year because you've participated and you've cared. Excuse me. Still, there's work to be done. You all recall in 2012, Utah experienced the lowest number of fatalities on our roads since 1956. We've seen a 42% decline in fatalities since the year 2000, all while vehicle miles traveled keeps increasing. So we're doing good. But in the last 2 years, we've seen those numbers go in the wrong direction. We've seen an increase in fatalities. And we can attribute these in basically four different categories. We've seen more impaired driving under the influence. And interestingly, a big part of this is prescription medication. We've seen a significant amount of impact due to distracted driving. Let's make sure we put those phones away when we're in the road. We've also seen increases in pedestrians and with elderly drivers. And so clearly, we need a way to change these outcomes. And so I'm so happy to see the work that Scott Jones and his team is doing in traffic and safety. They've been working on developing 2 new systems that will help us take existing data and try to project information into the future. These 2 systems are going to allow us to make better choices in all the work that we do and will help lead us on the path of 0 fatalities. This last year also brought stunning achievements at the legislature. And sometimes that may be hard for people to put those 2 things together. As you know, we've had a long-term focus on trying to achieve a primary seatbelt law. And we've been working with the Department of Public Safety to get there. Because a disproportionate number of people that get killed on our highways are killed because they're improperly restrained. I know you've heard me say this over and over again, and you're going to keep hearing me say it over and over again. We need everyone to wear their seatbelts every time. Everyone here needs to be an evangelist for this. We'll not get to 0 fatalities until we do. But getting a primary seatbelt law is difficult. Our Utah legislature can be thought of at times as conservative, maybe. And it's reluctant to impose its legislative will on individual rights. But we've worked hard. Linda Hull has worked hard with lots of people, lots of organizations, for us to be able to get this primary seatbelt law passed. And it's not significant because it's a legislative victory. It's significant because it will save lives. And I'm here to tell you, the only reason we were able to get this law passed was because the trust this department has developed with the public and the legislature. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. That's critical. So when we gave them the information on how seatbelts can save lives, they believed us. And now we have a law that will actually make a difference. We were also able to participate with a broad coalition to be able to increase the state gas tax that moves with the economy. Now, I just said Utah is the reddest of red states. And I'm not just saying this for the benefit of running Ute Coach Kostobiak, who's going to be our speaker here tonight. Pretty sure you're not going to want to miss it. I think that's going to be interesting. But fiscal conservatism is a way of life in Utah. But guess what? Preserving infrastructure is a conservative principle. When you take care of what we have, you are practicing the philosophy that those within UDOT refer to as good roads and good bridges cost less. So this coalition, representing a broad cross-section of Utah businesses and community interests, worked to support a gas tax increase to help preserve Utah's infrastructure because they know how important the state's roads and bridges are to the economy. So now we have a 5-cent gas tax increase, thanks to the hard work of many people that led to this point. That will generate about $55 million extra per year for the state, $23.5 million extra for our local governments. Now that's going to do a lot of infrastructure work, preservation, maintenance work. Our analysis tells us that if we spend $40 million additional each year on our level 2 roads, we can maintain the condition and arrest the decline that we've been seeing in those level 2 roads. We're going to spend the other $15 million on our bridges. And we're going to be accountable through our performance measures. And you know what that means? We will no longer have level 2 roads anymore. Let that sink in. We are no longer going to have to treat these roads as second-class citizens. We're going to maintain all of our pavements through our asset management system to an optimal condition for the safety and mobility needs of all of our citizens. This is a big deal, and it's a huge accomplishment. And it's going to affect all of Utah, but most significantly, it's going to affect a great part of rural part of Utah. And with the indexing mechanism that's incorporated into this, as our economy grows, the revenues from the gas tax are going to continue to increase. We now have the financial ability to maintain our roads and bridges into the future. I do not think there's another state in the country that can say that. That is incredibly significant. Now, as with the victory on seatbelts, this gas tax increase, in a large part, was passed because of our increased focus on transparency. Shane's going to talk a little bit about this tomorrow, show you some of the numbers. But the transparency leads to increased trust, which is, after all, the currency that we have every day. We spend trust and we generate trust. Now, I can't leave this subject without first acknowledging the incredible effort that all of our maintenance employees put in. You have not had a lot of money, and at times you've had to be pretty inventive on how you were going to take care of these roads. But you did keep them safe and functioning. You were patient. And for all of your work, I want to thank you for that. You made a difference. Thank you to all of our maintenance employees. Now let's be honest about this. This new revenue source is going to be great for us, and it's going to make a difference into the future. But that future, the longer it goes into the future, it's going to need to be a future that looks a lot like we look today. And you all know our future is going to look quite different. We're going to have nearly twice as many Utahns living here in the next 35 years. And we're going to see technological advancements in transportation that are going to require an entirely new look at the infrastructure, but it's also going to have a big impact on the revenues generated through gas tax. As we see more and more fuel-efficient vehicles and electric vehicles, it stands to reason we're going to see less revenue into the transportation fund. So we need to be thinking about how we're going to fund the transportation system of the future. And that's why we are watching with interest. Oregon DOT is looking at a vehicle miles traveled fee. And they were the first state in the country to pass a gas tax in 1919. And they're first state in the country now to be looking at this VMT idea. We're going to learn a lot from Oregon DOT as we keep an eye on this. Now, before I get completely geeked out about some of the exciting opportunities that are ahead of us in our future, let me just take a moment to talk about some of the things that are happening right now internal to the organization that are making a difference in how we serve our customers, the traveling public. Overall, we continue to do excellent work designing and constructing our projects and maintaining our pavements and bridges. Last year, since this conference, we've started 128 new projects, and conveniently, we've finished 128 new projects. It's nice that things come to an end. Now, we hear over and over again, and probably I get a chance to hear it more often than you, how pleased our community leaders are with the work that you do. It's being noticed. In fact, just the other day, we had a lady from Bountiful that was so pleased with the impact that the South Davis project had on her and her life. It made things better for her. She wanted to bring cookies to whoever built that job. We told her that there was probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people who worked on that job, and she seemed a little overwhelmed with that. Maybe she's still baking, but she seemed determined. And so, if the cookies show up, we'll take our share and share the rest with you. I was really impressed last year with our maintenance stations. You know what it's like when there's a low snow year. We look for that opportunity to take some money that we didn't spend plowing snow and invest it back into our pavements and our bridges and our drainage systems. But that's a hard thing to do because you're trying to judge, are we done with the snow season? We can't spend the money that we might need if we have to push. But you guys worked so well with the planners, the financial people, to be able to make huge differences with the projects you did. I had a chance to go out and visit with some of the crews while they were doing this, and your passion was unbelievable. The way you were able to get the work done and do so in such a professional manner was amazing. Now, I'm excited with the work that our Traffic Operations Center folks are doing on how they're keeping Utah traffic moving. Just 4 years ago, we challenged our employees to become world-class in traffic signal operation. That's a lofty goal we set. Well, our employees formed a quality improvement team, and they stacked up the Utah practices against the national best practices. And they compared ourselves. And then they developed implementation plans to be able to implement and move us towards best practices. Today, we have seen improvement in over 77% of the measurable areas in our traffic signals. Today, it is being noticed by the media and it's being noticed by the public. Today, I believe, we do have a world-class traffic signal operation. That doesn't mean we're going to take the heat off, guys. We're going to keep moving to get better. I'm so pleased with the work that Becky Jelm and her team is doing in GIS and U-Plan. They're working on new tools to help us tell our stories better, called story mapping. Now, I had a chance to, Terry Newell was in our office the other day, and she showed me this stuff, and I said, oh, that's really cool. I want to show that at the conference. And so they indulged me. Here's I-15, SR-92, the technology corridor it's being referred to as. And what you can do with this swipe bar as it comes down, if you notice there, it allows you to show the before and after condition. And so think about how much better we can explain very complex things to folks that don't live in our world. You know, I've heard so often that engineers are not the best communicators. Well, maybe with tools like this, we can actually become good communicators. I'm here to tell you, your representatives on the Employee Advisory Committee are passionate about the department and want to make things better for all of you. And we're engaged in some very lively and interesting discussions. Nothing is off the table. I congratulate those that have participated on the committee, and I look forward to others coming onto that committee. We're listening, we're learning from you, and we appreciate it. Along those lines, thank you for your work on participating in the latest employee survey. You guys were very honest, and you identified some areas where you felt the department was deficient. And we're committed to work on those areas, and we'll soon be communicating with you on ways that we're going to try to address those issues. Shane will talk more about the employee survey tomorrow. It's no wonder that people from around the country and even around the world are coming to Utah to see how you do your work. You are recognized as the best transportation department in the country. And we do have the best people doing the best work. And so I'm always proud to be able to share what you do. Sometimes I feel a little guilty because I didn't have anything to do with it. But just as an example, a couple weeks ago, head of Federal Highway Administration, Greg Nadeau, called me up. And he said, Carlos, I've got 18 months left in my administration, and I want to institutionalize innovation within the Federal Highway Administration in AASHTO. And I want to learn how you do it in Utah. Because Utah is recognized as a national leader in planning, design, construction, maintenance, and safety. Things that are old hat to us, such as design build, CMGC, diverging diamond interchanges, or CFIs, are new and innovative to everyone else in this country. And it's because of you. Shane's going to talk a little bit about innovation tomorrow. But let me just tell you how innovation works here at UDOT. Innovation doesn't come from leadership. Now, don't mistake me. I don't want anyone throwing anything at me. We have tremendous leaders doing some great work. But the role of leadership is to identify the vision, where we need to be. Then we provide a culture that's willing to listen to new ideas and willing to take those calculated risks. We're not afraid to fail. Things such as the new UDOT Learning Center are going to be one of the most important tools as we provide all of our employees with the tools that you need to be successful in your jobs. We then need the people on the front lines, the people that are actually doing the work, to be thinking about, I know where we need to be, but maybe we could do it a little differently here and get there faster, better, with less impact to traffic, less cost. That's what we need. That's where innovation comes from. So when you think about what you're doing, sometimes, what you do is making such a difference, and it might have been just the tiniest little change. But every one of those adds up. I love nothing more than to hear something that we're doing that I knew nothing about, I had nothing to do with. And I get to say, wow, we're doing that? That's really cool. That's an organization that's moving forward on full throttle. Now, I've already said we're nationally recognized for being innovative, and we're way ahead of the curve from a lot of other DOTs. So it'd be kind of easy to kind of just sit back and rest on our big fat reputation. You didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't either. And wait for the rest of the country to catch up. Maybe just let somebody else take the lead. Let them take the risk. But I get the sense from all of you that that's not the way you're wired. You love thinking of new ways to do things. You love talking about your new innovative ideas. I'll be honest, some of your stuff is pretty far out there and probably not even at all possible. But think about it. If you weren't pushing the edges and thinking about what's impossible, how would you come up with what is possible? So keep pushing the edges. Now, that comes to the second part of the quote from Kahlil Gibran. And the future with longing. Now, I told you a few minutes ago, I kind of geek out about the future. I love reading about what's coming at us. And I kind of think that maybe that's the same as longing, don't you think? Geeking out and longing. But what I hope is that you're all as excited and enthusiastic about this future that we have in front of us. We are at a fundamental change point in transportation. It's as significant as when man came up with the wheel, invented asphalt, developed motorized vehicles, or the interstate system. It's that significant. Now consider this quote from Henry Ford. If I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, because we didn't even know what was possible. The next decade of transportation is going to see innovations that are fundamental and profound in the way we do our work. And I believe you can categorize these into three broad areas: automation, electrification, and mobility as a service. Now, technologies being developed today as we speak that are really going to take us places that have really only been envisioned on the Jetsons. And I'm serious. In differential calculus, we would term this point as a point of inflection. It's the point at which the curve is changing shape. Henry Ford was changing the shape of the curve when he made that statement. And our direction as a Department of Transportation is surely changing. It's being driven by this extraordinary merger of technology as we know it today into the automobile. Automobiles always had technology, but not like what is happening right now. That merger is as significant as when somebody stuck the auto engine in with a wagon that used to be pulled by horses. That's the point at which we're at. Now remember that picture of me in those flashy pants? I hope they don't show it again. Good. We're going to destroy that one. Well, back then, the auto manufacturers were really the big three, right? GM, Ford, and Chrysler. And new models would come out every year, but change would only happen very slowly over 5 or 6 years. Today, we have many more car manufacturers, but change is still measured over long periods of time. Now, you saw me use an iPhone earlier. This iPhone is over 2 years old now. But since I've owned this thing, there's been 3 or 4 software pushes, significant pushes, that have completely changed the functionality of that phone. That's the pace at which we measure change today. And so we see technology companies such as the Googles and the Apples and others entering the automotive arena. And they are pushing right now so hard on the applications of autonomous vehicles, cars that drive themselves. You've all seen the Google car. Kind of looks like a ride at Lagoon, and that may be a little bit of a, may have caused us not to take it as seriously as we should. But those cars have driven over 1.5 million miles on our roadways. It's estimated that you will be buying self-driving cars starting in 2020. That's pretty soon, but some of us may say that's out there a ways. We don't have to really be thinking about this yet. We've all heard of Uber and Lyft offering mobility as a service. And I maintain that, that's really nothing new. Transit is mobility as a service. And in fact, we are going to be increasingly relying on transit in the future that we have with our almost doubling of our population. In fact, we're going to introduce a new performance goal as a department that is going to help us move towards a greater mode share towards transit. We need transit to be successful for UDOT to be successful. But what if we can increase the use of these car services, eliminate public parking, have more parks, more open space? Uber right now is working Carnegie Mellon University to develop an autonomous vehicle. Their vision is when you hit the app and you ask for a car to come, there's not going to be a driver in it. That car is going to be out there constantly, just picking people up and dropping them off. You see why I believe we're not just approaching an inflection point, we are there today? Take this other example. Eldon Musk. His company Tesla did something 2 weeks ago from this coming Thursday that is very significant. It's going to change the way we think of change in transportation. And it's pretty easy to roll your eyes at Eldon Musk. He's a big thinker. He's got this idea that we're going to be running around, being pushed in tubes, Hyperloop, at high rates of speed. You kind of say, ooh, I don't know about that. But think about it. This is the same guy that built his own rocket company and is flying rocket ships to the space station. He's trying to change the entire electrical grid and the way it operates, and he's building a gigantic battery factory right now as we speak to drive this change. And he's building cars that people like to drive with a range of over 300 miles, electric vehicles. Well, 2 weeks ago, as I mentioned, Tesla did a software push to their car, just as on the iPhone. And that software push basically enabled 4 different systems within that car, basically turned them on. Radar, sonar, cameras all over, and 3-dimensional mapping built into the car. Those cars today are driving in autonomous modes on our highways. And it happened they didn't ask permission from anyone. They just did it. Now, they can't drive on our arterials yet because they're not talking to the traffic signals, but that's not going to be too far away. So today, if you see a Tesla and you're on the highway, you look over, they probably have no hands on the wheels, no feet on the pedals at all. And there's now finally a purpose for that little stick on the side of the steering column that so many of the Utahns don't really know what it's for. Instead of just lighting up those little blinky lights, that's how you change lanes on the highway. You move the lever, and the car changes lanes. Now, my point here isn't to sell you a Tesla. It's to explain the profound rate of change that's coming at us and what it's going to mean to us as an organization. And I think you all can understand the benefits of this type of automation, electrification, and mobility as a service. Surely in the safety arena, when you consider that 94% of the crashes on our roads are human error, KPMG's insurance practice estimates that by 2040 with autonomous vehicles, so they're predicting full penetration, there's going to be an 80% reduction in crashes. Think about what that means to zero fatalities. We can all see how having an automated vehicles are going to smooth out the flow on the roads. Laminar flow, you move more cars through, improve our mobility. But what does it mean to our pavements and our bridges and all of our other $35 billion worth of assets? You've heard of the Internet of Things. Are we going to start putting sensors in our pavements and our bridges and our signs and our striping? Are we going to have real-time measurements of how our stuff is decaying? Are we going to be able to measure our transportation system the same way a doctor measures the human body? Imagine being able to fix a pothole before that pothole ever developed. What about 3D printers? You've heard about 3D printers. What do they mean to our industry? Well, today, a 3D printer is printing a pedestrian bridge, a real bridge that will be used. They're printing a bridge. What does that mean for the way we build things in the future? It's pretty mind-boggling. We're going to have cars talking to cars, bridges talking to cars. There's going to be all kinds of conversations going on. So there's lots of questions out there just begging for some answers. And I'm telling you, there's no better time for us all to be working at the most innovative DOT in the country. Because you're the people that these people with these big visions want to work with, because you know how to make things happen. Now, we owe a great debt of gratitude for those that came before us. And I've had a chance to visit with some of the great folks that have we've all learned from here at UDOT, some of our retired employees. They were far-reaching and innovative, and they did things that allowed us to do what we do today. Things such as even having enough right-of-way to add capacity. Or how about building a fiber optic system that allows us to have 89% of all of our traffic signals in the state connected? No other state can say that. Or their ability to see the importance of developing a world-class workforce. You. That was their legacy to us. Which begs the question, what will be our legacy for those that come after us for transportation? What can we do right now today that will make their roads smoother, their bridges sturdier, and their fatalities zero? Now, I wish I could answer these questions. What fun would that be? I know you guys. You love to figure stuff out. So you're going to boldly step into Utah's transportation future because that's in your nature. You're going to be smart and creative, and you're going to be innovative. And you're going to work hard, not just because of that's what you do, that's who you are. You bleed orange. Now, not too long ago, our new communications manager, Matt Allred, heard that term for the first time. He was talking to one of our station supervisors, Jake Brown. Jake, you out there? Back row, of course. And Jake, knowing Jake, he was getting really worked up and excited. He was talking about the great work that his people were doing and the difference that they were making out of the roads. And Matt was so impressed with this, and he just said, wow, it's so good to see a manager that's so enthusiastic. And Jake just said, yeah, well, I get kind of excited. I guess I just kind of bleed orange. Now, Matt said, well, that's a different statement. He didn't come from UDOT, never heard it before. And so the next day, when he was talking to Nathan Lee, our Region 2 director, he started telling about how excited Jake was and enthusiastic he was about the work they were doing and his people. And Nathan just kind of stopped him and said, yeah, that's Nate. That's Jake. He really bleeds orange. I'm here to tell you, Jake's not the only one. He's just my example. Pretty much everyone here wears orange for safety reasons. But when I travel the state and I get a chance to meet with each and every one of you, UDOT employees, contractors, consultants, local governments, it's amazing the passion you have for what you do. You guys are making a difference. You think orange, you walk orange, you talk orange, and you bleed orange. I really see it in your thoughts and your ideas, and I see it in your actions every day. And so I'm so moved by that passion. I wanted to find a way to kind of show as a little symbol, kind of an inside story, that what you do makes a difference to people, and they care. They care for what you do. So, little tweak. We're going to do a little tweak to our logo. Now, our logo, I've heard a lot of comments. Why is it blue? Well, believe it or not, there's a reason to everything in this world. And our marketing consultants tell us it's blue because that's the color of professionalism and peace, trust, reliability, and honor. And every year, our surveys are showing that the public is seeing us that way more and more. So we're not going to go completely away from the blue that dominates our logo. But in honor of you and your commitment to UDOT's strategic goals, mission, and vision, we're going to add a little orange, a little splash of orange to that logo. Now, whenever you see this, I want you to think, when you see that orange, I want you to think of the heroes of Hilldale. I want you to think of our men and women behind the snowplows on Christmas Eve when we're all at home. I want you to think of the receptionist who's been there for 8 hours taking calls and is answering every call with a great attitude. Think of our contractor that's out there in the middle of the night. There's no UDOT supervisor, but he makes the choice to take another roller pass down that hot mat of asphalt because he knows it's going to make that pavement better. That's who I want you to think of when you see the orange. That's what it represents. It represents you and your passion. Now, let me close with one last poem, or quote, from E.E. Cummings, American poet. Once we believe in ourselves, We can risk the curiosity, wonder, spontaneous delight of any experience that reveals the human spirit. Please, believe in yourselves. I believe in you and in the strength of your spirit. I urge you to take the risk of spontaneity and the wonder that comes from it. So please, join me in looking forward to the future of Utah transportation. Thank you very much.
We want to thank everybody for coming for lunch. Please remember the sessions start at 1:45. You have some time to visit the exhibitor hall. Please don't forget tonight's dinner with Coach K speaking. Shane gets to introduce him. Go Red, man. Thank you very much.